This is a clip from Beyond Classified. You can access the entire episode now at rockfin.com/FKN+. With history being so muddled and rewritten, I mean, we don't even know what our real history is 10, 20 years ago, much less 50, 100,000 years ago. It's been written by victors, by, individuals' perceptions, and there's not much to go off of. It's not like we had technology to record things back in those days. It's mostly off of written word or carvings or artwork and things like that. What were the sources that you went to look to find the best and most accurate sources for this research?
Well, great questions. Where I started was the Bible, because the Bible is actually incredibly pertinent to our current situation, and it really provides this big picture understanding of what's going on in the world today. And from there, I looked at extra biblical manuscripts, such as the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jasher, and I can talk a little bit more about that today. There were ancient Egyptian documents, the craft of the scribe. I looked at the works of Herodotus and also Josephus, who were, famous Greek and Jewish historians. And then digging into all sorts of annals throughout history. I mean, it was quite the journey and the investigation, because I didn't mention this earlier, but when I wrote this book, I wrote it in what's called real time, which means when I was writing chapter 5, for example, I had no idea the twists and turns that this investigative journey would take. I didn't even know if the dots would connect in the end. I really felt like it was something God was calling me to do. So each day I'd wake up and say, okay, what are you going to show me, Lord? Where are we going? And one step after another, and things just really unfolded and connected. But like I said, I have 553 references. Now, some of those are repeat references within my book, but I just tried to really focus on a wide range of resources and pull it all together. But, as you say, with history, so much has been rewritten, and we can't always rely on the mainstream narrative. Well, nowadays we can barely rely on the mainstream narrative, right? And so I actually, though, I'm encouraged, because I feel like there's a larger percentage of people that are waking up to the fact that we are in the midst of this unconventional war. It is, I think, a war of biblical proportions between good versus evil. And that's why I think it's so imperative that we understand who our enemy is. There's a passage in the Bible, Hosea 4:6. It says, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." And so with that said, I thought maybe I'd talk a little bit about the Nephilim agenda to kind of try to help people understand who is our enemy.
Yes, I love that. I'd like to take us back to as far as we can go. There's been plenty of researchers, wonderful researchers on that have presented their own understanding of what the Nephilim or fallen angels are, and I'd love to get your perception of this.
Yeah, so as your listeners may know, so the Nephilim agenda was unleashed during the days of Noah. And the way that I describe it is it's the plan to defile the human genome through the propagation of a hybrid race. And the purpose of that really was to overthrow God's kingdom. Now, the origins of this Nephilim agenda actually go all the way back to the seed war in Genesis 3. And I'll read 2 verses from that. This is verse 14 and 15. It says, "So the Lord God said to the serpent, 'Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel.'" So this is a description of what happened. So after the fall of Adam and Eve, what God did is he declared war between the seed of Eve, which is humanity, and the seed of Satan. And one day Eve's seed would crush Satan. And this was a prophetic declaration of the coming Messiah. And so Satan's strategy was to contaminate the seed of the woman by altering the genetic code of humans. Now, this is where the fallen sons of God become integral in Satan's strategy. And we read about that not only in the book of Genesis, but also in the book of Enoch. And so what we learned from those two manuscripts is that the fallen sons of God, they chose to leave their heavenly abode and they invaded the earth realm and they descended upon Mount Hermon. And from that place, they lusted after the daughters of men and they took them as wives, mated with them, and then defiled their human genome by birthing the Nephilim, which is a hybrid race of giants. So one of the things I did in my book that I felt like was really important to kind of add to the body of literature that's already out there is to identify a set of proposed criteria that would advance our ability to discern the presence of Nephilim traits within individuals. So in chapter 13 of my book, what I did is I identified 4 physical traits and 19 behavioral characteristics of the Nephilim and their giant offspring. And the reason why I feel like that's so important is because we must not be deceived in thinking that the Nephilim only roamed the earth during the days of antiquity. And so what I submit to you is that Nephilim and Nephilim hosts are alive today. Now, a Nephilim host is a term that I coined in my book. And what I mean by that is a human who has partnered with the spiritual forces of darkness to carry out the Nephilim agenda. So these would be people that would meet that proposed criteria that I set out in my book. Now, I think many of them are the titans of global governance. These are the global elites over industry and banking and, media, big pharma, big tech, the political establishment. But what we have to realize is these Nephilim hosts, they are intent on enslaving the masses through domination, control, and manipulation. And we see that really at play right now. And, the Nephilim agenda and the globalist agenda essentially are serving the same end goal, and that is the total domination of humanity. It's really tyranny on the grandest scale.